It's a Friday Fights edition of Celtics Roundtable. I'm Jonathan Levy. I am joined by Sam Sheehan, Jared Weiss, and Matthew Ignal. We brought the brains in for this one because Gordon Hayward, guys, is out, and he's out basically forever. It's awful. It's heartbreaking. We spent all this money. We spent all this time prepping to get Gordon Hayward. We got him, and he's gone for a year. I don't know what to do. This show is powered by CLNS Media. That's all I can tell you. But maybe the first question to ask really is, where do the Celtics go from here? Are they just going to build from the team within and see it as a developmental year? Are they going to do something else? Jared Weiss, you are the closest guy to the team. What do you see happening?
I see them just kind of trudging along as they've been doing. It doesn't really change much for them in their developmental plan. Like Wick Grossbeck said on the Sports Hub, I want to say, or maybe WEI the other day, they are looking to compete with the Golden State Warriors on a legitimate level within the next couple of years, which means they'll be able to get Gordon Hayward back by the time they're actually competing. So they got to just keep doing what they've been trying to do. You know, they are probably going to be looking to swing a deal for Anthony Davis if he somehow forces his way out of New Orleans. Otherwise, there's probably not much more for them to do. If he really is out for the year, they can apply for that $8.5 million disabled player exception and try to trade for a valuable rotation player that's in the last year of his contract, just to supplement some of what they lose. Because they got to go for it. I mean, they got to win and try to be as good as they can. But now the focus is on making Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart all-star caliber players.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that one way of looking at it is to think, wait, like the Celtics were never going to compete this year anyway. Did they really have a realistic chance of, stopping the Warriors, who might win 70 plus games and, seem to be better than they were last year? That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that Celtics, with Hayward going down for the year, they kind of lost a bite at the apple here. I don't think anyone really expects them to challenge Cleveland or, definitely not challenge Golden State at this point. But for a reason. On the one hand, it did, get younger and, he has more years on his contract than Isaiah Thomas does, and that helps out. But you also got rid of that Brooklyn pick, which is now looking pretty juicy with the news that Jeremy Lin is going to be out for the year. And, so the Celtics really chose to walk a middle line instead of a much future-based timetable. And, I think that, you kind of see some of the risks of that already tragically starting to play out with this Hayward injury.
So I don't know if Hayward's ever going to be fully the same. I remember watching this Paul George interview just a few days ago when he's talked openly about his recovery from injury, and he said it there's still a bump on my leg. I'm never going to be as bouncy as I once was. So I think that even if Hayward makes a full recovery, he's never going to be necessarily 100%. I mean, I guess we can't say that for certain, but that's my expectation. Long term, I don't think that this affects Kyrie's decision to re-sign in Boston. I fully expect Hayward to be back and to be very good next year. But as far as we're talking this year, I mean, I think that the Celtics are even in real danger of missing the playoffs, even in a bad Eastern Conference, especially if they lose, Kyrie or Horford for an extended period. And it just kind of sucks that the upward trajectory that we saw for the Celtics, they're, almost certainly going to take a step back this year.
Wow. Matthew Ignal sounds like he's taking a little too many of the depression pills, man. Come on. They're not going to miss the playoffs.
Not enough.
Maybe if Kyrie and Horford both, fall down and can't get up. But otherwise, this team is still... this team is good.
They've got talent across the board. I mean, Brad Stevens made the playoffs with Evan Turner.
Yeah, but it's young talent we're talking here. We're talking about a million rookies and a 20-year-old who. I'm just saying that if Kyrie and Horford miss a combined 30 games, then I think we're in trouble.
I mean, we're not going to winning a playoff series might be tough. There are still some good teams in the East. The Bucks, the Raptors. There's trouble. But I think we're giving the East too much credit, and I think we're short selling, Brad Stevens and what the floor of a Brad Stevens team is. You got to go back to the 2013-14 squad, which was absolutely devoid of talent. to like see anything, where the Celtics like missed the playoffs. The fact that they made the playoffs with that, that 14-15 squad that was like rough and also young. Like, I don't know. I don't think missing the playoffs. I think a 6 seed is definitely like possible. I don't know about missing the playoffs though. The East is really bad.
Am I crazy?
I mean,
really
look,
bad.
I can't take this. This is crazy to me. How much worse is this team than last year's Celtics squad? I mean, Isaiah and Kyrie are pretty close to each other. I know Isaiah had a crazy good year. Okay, Avery Bradley isn't around, but Jaylen Brown is a year older and clearly a year better. Jason Tatum is ready to at least contribute somewhat. They've got better rebounding. They have a reasonable bench. What am I missing, Jared?
You forgot about Marcus, who's looking a lot better too.
Woo!
And he's going to be the one kind of taking over for Hayward. And we saw in Wednesday's game against Milwaukee that he can replace what Hayward does in the offense. He's not nearly as good at it, and he isn't a knockdown threat from 3 the way that Hayward is. But he's
the way that Hayward is. Okay, the way that anyone is.
He's not.
The way that Stevie Wonder is.
Well, I mean, Stevie's got good form, but Marcus has looked a lot more competent this year, and I'm optimistic on him being somewhat like a 36% three-point shooter, which is good enough to make him a pretty decent all-around threat. But he's gotten so much better as a triple penetrator. He's got to get more consistent finishing around the rim, but he's getting there. So I think the fact that they have Smart and they can put him into Hayward's role, which people are probably thinking, oh, but he's so much shorter, like totally different players. Not really. Frankly, they're both point forwards, which is funny because Marcus Smart is like 6'3", but he's a point forward really. And they operate the offense in a very similar manner, so they can utilize them the same way. It hurts their depth a little bit, but not like a crazy amount because they were already pretty deep with wings. They're just all pretty young. But I think when they get fully healthy, they still have a relatively versatile and complete team. It's just that Hayward took them from being what I think is probably going to be a 44, 45 win team to a team that could go from the low 50s all the way up into the low 60s. So I think Hayward's worth about 6 wins or so. I had them at 51 wins before the year, so I think they're probably around a 45 win team, which should be around the 4th to 6th seed in the Eastern Conference.
I just got to say, if Marcus Smart shoots more than 34% from 3, I'm going to eat my shoes. And I got really nice shoes because they are from Greats, Brooklyn's first sneaker company. They sell all the grades, classic styles, made the best for less. It's a wide selection of men's and women's shoes, versatile styles, suitable for any occasion. Tons of different colors and materials to choose from. I'm holding one right here. This is the Leather Royale Lace-Up. That's right. It's called the Royale. Even in America, we call it that. It's so sweet. Check out these white lines on this thing, man. You got to love it. You can check these out along with lots of other styles at greats.com. And we've got a special deal for our audience right now. Save 15% on your first order with our offer code Celtics Roundtable. Go to greats.com. That's GREATS.com for the spelling impaired. And be sure to enter Celtics Roundtable to save 15% at checkout. Greats also believes so much in their shoes, they offer a no-risk return and exchange policy to guarantee that you get the right fit, that too, but also the right fit in a style you love. So greats.com, use the code Celtics Roundtable to save 15%. Man, I hope Marcus does step up, but come on, Jared. 36%? That guy's a 28% three-point shooter. What's going to happen? Is he going to get new arms?
It's not that big. It might sound like a big jump, but 36% is like an average three-point shooter. Yes. It's not that massive of a jump to go from a mediocre or bad three-point shooter to an average three-point shooter.
Jay Crowder did it.
Shooter. He's the
one.
It's
like it's not. I'm not saying he's going to go up to 39 to 40%, which would be he was a good three-point shooter. I'm thinking he looks like he should be just good enough that he can shoot 3 for 7 most nights. It should be around 30.
I mean, if we want to take it back to like the analytics show, like I think that it's easier to get to 50% than it is to like get up to 50% than it is to get lower than that. So Marcus way down below, what was it? What did he shoot? Like 26, 27%. You got to hit like less. You got to hit a lot less threes to get up to that mark than it is like the closer you get to 50%. So I don't know. I mean, if you throw out, somebody had this tweet earlier today. I think it might have been, was it you, Jared? That if you throw out the first half of the Cleveland game for Marcus, which all of it came after the Hayward injury.
A quarter of the season.
Yeah, a quarter of the season, so to speak. But 37.5% for Marcus from three, and some sort of it was I can't remember, it was 40 something from the field. Very very normal numbers. So skinny Marcus might be real, man.
I mean, come on. You're going to throw out the first half of the Cleveland game and the last 3 years of the NBA, apparently, too, because this guy's the worst three-point shooter in the history of the Celtics and the worst three-point shooter in the NBA with any level of volume except maybe Russell Westbrook. I hope he gets better, and I hear what you're saying. The improvement doesn't have to be as much. But this guy should not be shooting threes, and everything we're talking about is just a pipe dream, boys. Maybe he'll grow into it at some point. He is nowhere close to this. He continues to put up bad shooting numbers pretty much every night, and I just expect he's going to continue to. Doesn't mean I don't want him on the team. I think he's great, but he's going to sign hopefully a deal that's around $9 million a year because that's probably what he's actually worth. Because he's not the Diet Cobra who hits threes, not yet anyway.
Do we want to get back to the implications of the Hayward injury instead of talking about what might or might not happen with Marcus Smart's three-point shooting?
That's a fair point. All right, I got a question for the roundtable on this one. So there could be an argument to be made that ultimately the Hayward injury doesn't really hurt the Celtics all that much because, as we said, they aren't going to compete for a title this year anyway, not truly. And that this actually gives the Celtics a chance to develop Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum faster and get those guys NBA-level minutes faster. Like Jaylen Brown looks like he's going to be getting starter minutes now throughout the season. Maybe Tatum as well. These guys are going to get more opportunities than they otherwise would get, be in tougher situations, more crunch time situations. Is this actually a good thing ultimately for the long-term future, not the short-term, but the long-term championship future for the Celtics?
I have a thought. Go ahead, Jared. You're our guest.
That's some hogwash malarkey. I mean, please bleep that out because that was really aggressive. But,
wow, geez, come on, man! This is a family podcast.
Oh, shut your face, sir. Oh, I forgot we're on a family podcast.
Yeah, my kids listen to this.
That's right. I forgot Jason Tatum's listening.
Yeah.
So and Terry was here, but like obviously that is a silver lining to the tragedy of the situation. That sure Jason and Jaylen are going to get thrown into the fire even more so. However, Gordon Hayward is the most important part of their future, and his career has been significantly derailed by this. I mean, people are relieved that he had a successful surgery and there was minimal ligament issues, and he's expected to make a full recovery in a year, but he's expected to make a full recovery from a massive injury. He is still in a very bad situation, and they hope that they expect reasonably, because it usually does work out, that he's going to come back strong. But frankly, like we were saying with Paul George, he may never come back to 100% of what he was. Although, like Paul George, he should still be just as good of a player because he'll evolve in other ways. And frankly, his game isn't necessarily predicated on him being a massive athlete. It's predicated on his body control and his skill. But, I mean, it's most important for them that Gordon Hayward is an all-NBA player throughout his prime. That is their most important thing. Jaylen and Jason are still going to develop. Maybe this will accelerate their development a little bit, but that's not nearly as important as the fact that they're losing Gordon for a season. Sure, you could have called it a not as important season because they don't expect to compete. It is still extremely important, and they still could compete, or they still could have competed this year. And then next year, he's not going to. I mean, your first year back from an injury like this, you have a rusty year for that first year. You're not the same. It takes you a while to get in the rhythm. He might not be, if he makes it all the way back, he might not be an all-NBA level player even by playoff time. So it could be half of the contract that you signed Gordon to. You either weren't having him available, or you weren't having an elite player that could actually put you over the top to compete. This is a. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that. I feel like Gordon Hayward was just kind of like really important for the way the Celtics wanted to play, and he was just like a perfect fit with the way Brad Stevens wanted to play. And I thought that was like important to the development of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to sort of play alongside him,
and Kyrie Irving.
Right, exactly, and sort of develop like these new habits that lead to efficient offense. And there's a learning process there, and I think that while it's going to be nice that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are probably going to get more minutes as a result of this, I think it's offset by the fact that I think Gordon Hayward would have helped them to become better players.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sam.
I think, I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, it's a no-brainer. Like, obviously, like, you want to have Gordon Hayward. I mean, you signed him. You went out and you signed him to a 3-year +1 deal. You are losing him for a third of the contract he's going to be there for. Guys his age usually opt out of that 4th year, so he will probably be a free agent. You're getting him for basically 2 years now at this point. So, on the one hand, of course, that's a bad thing. Like, you paid for this guy. You wanted him here for a reason. On the other hand, the Golden State Warriors are not going anywhere for at least a couple of years. It'll probably be the money and Klay Thompson that ends the Warriors as we know them. But we're still, a year or two away from that. So is it the worst thing in the world to get Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown some run when those are going to be the guys hitting their prime as this, historic, what's probably the greatest team of all time, is falling apart, Look, I think that you can argue it both ways, but I think it is more of a debate than it might have otherwise seemed. Normally when it's like, no duh. I think the way I would frame it is it is an excellent silver lining and a luxury that only the Celtics would have to have an all-star player and one of your top 3 players get hurt and have anything be positive about it, in that you are lucky enough to have these talented young wings that you need to develop behind them. And I think that shows just what a good job Danny Ainge and the front office have done.
It also gives, and we saw this in the Milwaukee Bucks game, some of the other younger guys a little bit more opportunity. Abdel Nader was the first guy off the bench. Shemi Ojeleye got real time in the game. So they're going to have an opportunity to develop a little bit more too in NBA game time minutes, not just in practice. And maybe one of them will develop in a real way. Shemi is the guy I'm holding out hope for. Him and Tice forever. But there's something there, and I mean, look, I don't want Hayward to be hurt. I want him to be an all-NBA player and the 14th best player in the league or whatever he is. But now we don't have that. And, like Jaylen Brown being a superstar, or Jason Tatum being a superstar, or both of them being superstars is the way forward for the Celtics to actually win titles, especially now that they traded that damn Nets pick in 2018, which I'm still upset about. So ultimately, I think there is something real there, although we wouldn't have chosen this. There is something at least good that can come out of it, hopefully. Like, we've seen Jaylen Brown look really good. He scored 25 in the first game and 18 in the second game. There's at least that.
Only in the bizarre world of Celtics Nation can people just immediately turn this tragic injury into, but you know what? We needed this because now the rookies are going to get some shine.
I don't think anyone's saying we needed this. We're just saying...
I'm saying it sarcastically.
Okay.
It's just a testament to the eternal optimism of a Celtics fan.
This is whatever the 5 stages are. We're on number 1 right here, baby. Number 1, denial. This is good, actually. It's actually great. Losing an all-star is actually good. You guys are not galaxy brain the way I am. Somebody needs to meme that with the galaxy brain. All-star gets hurt is actually good. So
it's like Jason Tatum's post footwork is like the exploding brain at the bottom.
Guys, here's another major silver line that no one is talking about anywhere in Celtics media. Brad Stevens now has a chance to win Coach of the Year. He had almost no chance otherwise, but now it can happen.
Is in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hayward's fine. It's all a big thing.
This is the Kaiser Soze moment. Brad says, "Throw the lob in the middle of the floor." To his own man. Brad was sick of losing it. I'm just saying. We've already seen evil Brad. He pounded on the table last night. I'm still laughing about that.
But he apologized, so it's okay.
He apologized.
If you freeze one of the frames of the replay of the Hayward injury, you can actually see Brad throwing a bunch of marbles on the floor.
Hallelujah. And with that, guys, we're going to have to close things out on the Friday Fights edition of the Celtics Roundtable. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and like this video. If you're listening to us on any kind of, app or anything like that, go ahead and subscribe as well to the podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at CLNS Roundtable, and we will see you next time on the Celtics Roundtable. Money mailbag even. That thing. Submit your questions. I never know what the next thing we're doing is ever. Ever. Ever.